welcome back. Deirdre, this is such an interesting conversation, and I'm loving, understanding all the perspectives. And thank you so much for your formula on listening. I'm going to be using that. I appreciate that information. So, audience, if you missed the last segment, you definitely want to go back and listen to it. But I'd like to really further our conversation as we're getting more and more into the digital age. And you referenced some of this, earlier as we were speaking and talking about adapting our communication styles and how we're really putting the phone everywhere and being on top of all of this and those kinds of things as we are moving forward. We know that the digital age can make us feel overwhelmed, can keep us to the point that, we have so many platforms of information and data and places that we can go. And truly understanding what should really be our self expectations when it comes to the learning and the data and the platform as we're moving forward. I'd love to hear your perspective on what strategies can really help our professionals and leaders manage this communication effectively when we have so many different channels that we need to communicate through.
Yes, there are a lot of channels, but just because there are so many doesn't mean you have to be everywhere. And I think that's what you have to step back as a part of your strategy to say, where do our customers need us to be? Where do they expect us to be? Where do they want us to be? And those are the places that you're going to build out. But before you can even get to strategy, what are your goals? Think about, what are we trying to achieve? Every platform is different. They have platforms have different cultures and ways that you engage, and that's going to definitely have an impact on how you develop moving forward and either work or engage, or whether it's contests, campaigns, what you're doing with your community. I would also say that do a bit of listening, because when you're listening, and Vicki, I think we've talked about this before, when you listen, you begin to understand what your customers care about and what they need, and you'll develop the content, the information, the programs, and exactly what ignites their passion. And those are just some of the ways that you can be more strategic.
And I agree. I think it's important that as we start talking about passion, and that's one I could talk about all day long, right? Is that passion and that purpose? Because when you reach somebody in the heart and you're getting to that passion, it's something that they're looking forward to and they want to talk about, they want to be involved in, they want to hear more about, in terms of moving forward. And I think that's what starts from a connection to a relationship where I really want to learn more about you to see how you're going to be, how we can facilitate potentially working together, doing things together, being a partner. Maybe it's a business partnership, kind of thing as we move forward. So I do appreciate that and understand it. But you said something I really want to expand on a little bit. And it's one of my favorite words. You said each platform and channel has a culture. Can you define a little bit more about what you mean as a culture on these channels? Because I think that is extremely important as we start to talk about communication.
Well, think about the different channels. Look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is your business professional community. The way that you act on LinkedIn, the way that you connect, from the ways you create content, how you comment, that's very different than, let's say, what you see on X or what you see on Instagram. That's all a part of the culture. Culture is the way that people participate. And you have to be tapped into that. If you come onto LinkedIn and you're sharing as if you're on Instagram or TikTok, you're not going to develop business relationships the way that you would like to. People expect content a certain way, thought leadership, and that's a great platform for thought leadership.
How do you validate that culture? How do you ensure, and the reason I ask that is I think one of the complexities is starting to happen as we begin to talk about so many platforms and so many channels is, well, should I put a video on LinkedIn? Should I not? And is video really just for Instagram, or should I be doing posts? And what kind of ads do I really use? And even though my ads are targeted towards business and impacts the business on LinkedIn, can I be myself? Can I be authentic in terms of, being all of me, bringing all of me, to the table as I move forward? What does that look like? And understanding, X, how much is on X? Because you see everybody across these same platforms, right? The same person is on all 5 platforms. So it almost feels schizophrenic sometimes when it's like, okay, I'm going to communicate this message, right? And I want to talk about X. Well, on LinkedIn, I'm going to say it this way. On Facebook, I'm going to do it this way. On X, I'm going to do it this way. On Instagram, I'm going to do it this way. But I think that confusion that's there, in terms of the way we communicate. So, how do you think we should talk to the same people across these different channels, but they have different cultures?
Well, here's the thing. Is it always the same people? You wouldn't necessarily, maybe I know for myself, I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on Snapchat. So you have to remember who is the bulk of your audience and what are you trying to achieve on LinkedIn versus another platform? Maybe Instagram is more for your fun contests and your shorter videos and stories, but on LinkedIn, you have a great opportunity for a newsletter and longer content, and you can embed video in your newsletter. But you can't do anything if you're not, number one, if you don't know your goals and you're not measuring back to your goals. You had said, well, do I put a video here? Do I not put a video on LinkedIn? You kind of have to test a little bit to see what works. And if video works, then go with what's working. And also, your community is very quick to tell you what they like and what they don't like. So you want to make sure that you're tuning in and finding out what they need from you. So that's number one. You also mentioned, do I just come? Can I be myself? You should be yourself wherever you show up. Who you are on any one of your social channels should be the same person that someone meets in person in real life. And I think that authenticity should always shine through.
So let's take that question. And I got to ask you this, especially when we talk about emotional intelligence. If I change my language per the platform that I'm on to address the potential audience of that culture of platform, am I being authentic?
So you have to repeat the first part of what you said. If I change I lost a word.
My language.
Oh,
If I
your
change
language.
my communication, my language, based upon the culture of the platform. So you talked about LinkedIn as professional. I'm going to use a certain language when I'm on it. Instagram may be fun. I'm going to be a certain language, but am I still being authentic?
Is it you? In other words, do you like to have fun when you're on Instagram? If you like to have fun, it's you. If you talk in the professional business setting a certain way, whether you're on LinkedIn or you're at a conference, it's still you. So I think you are adjusting how you show up. It's still you, and you're using the content that's appropriate for the community and the culture.
I'm so glad you said that. I think more and more people need to hear that because I couldn't agree with you anymore. Just because we're adjusting our content to the appropriate audience doesn't mean we're not being real. It
Right.
doesn't mean we're not being authentic. You're just addressing the level of the content that that audience may want to hear or take in, or is going to matter to them as they're continuing to move forward. So I am so glad you said that, and I was hoping that's what you
Me
were
too.
going to say, because I think more and more people need to hear it. They begin, I've had clients that say, well, maybe I'm not using my emotional intelligence the right way. Maybe I'm not being empathetic the right way. And I just think that you can speak to everybody with what resonates with them, be authentic, be empathetic, have high emotional intelligence as you're moving forward and understand people doesn't mean that you're not you.
Right. And also, as a part of emotional intelligence, that has to do with your own self awareness. Are you aware of your emotions and how what you say could impact the people around you, especially on social media? And if you're not aware of your own emotions, how can you possibly manage somebody else's? And then there's also self regulation. And that's a big one that I think everybody should think about. Do you have discipline on social media? When you're on X, are you just shooting off how you feel, or can you take a pause and really step back and maybe think about something a different way before you hit that send? Because once it's out there, oh, it travels very quickly.
I hear you. Completely understand. Do you think emotional intelligence truly plays a role in successful digital communication today?
Oh, I do. I think it transfers over. And I think leaders can show emotional intelligence, whether it's in a post on X, it's a LinkedIn post, a photo that they want to share. You're just remembering that emotional intelligence is there's a lot that goes into it: self awareness, self regulation, empathy. It's, are you motivating for the right reasons? And lastly, social skills, building those relationships, managing people, and being a part of a community that's productive.
I it always makes me feel good when I finish speaking with you. As
Thank
I
you.
think about all of the areas that you're talking about, and I think about the impact of generations that we're facing too, and how generations are, evolving. What we had when I was a child, I may had to do manually. What they have today, it's all automated. So I really, really enjoy talking about the impact of really understanding the methods to use for communication. Deirdre, thank you so much for being on our show. And I can't wait to have more Deirdre on my next show because I always learn so very, very much. Thank you,
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Oh, well, I'm sure my audience thought so too. And I look forward to seeing all of you on the next episode of Ignite, where we let the fire keep it burning. See you next time.